Hi everyone, it is a pleasure to be here at Indie Checkpoint Peru. It is also, I really want to thank everyone who is participating and very big kudos to organizers. So, hi Kat. Now, we are going to talk about how to enter foreign markets as a game developer or at least what to consider. So, everything that I want to share today is just one viewpoint, possible inspiration, take it like that. Of course, every product and every game, even a service, if it's that type of a game or interactive solution that you're creating, it really needs its own specific approach when it comes to different users and different markets. And therefore, we're going to tackle this. But before that, I want to introduce myself a little bit better. So as a day job, I'm running an indie game studio called MyTale here in Finland. And we are a completely independent studio for past 9 years, well, almost a decade, where we have 28 employees and all our games are self-financed and self-published, although we do provide a lot of B2B services as well as developing our own IPs. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. My name might come up every now and then, especially as I'm very active with communities here in Finland and internationally, especially through IGDA and IGDA Foundation, where I am in both organizations board member. But I'm also one of the founders and the chairperson of We Love Games organization, which is, of course, part of this whole program. So really glad to see the amount of activities that are happening in Latin America. And so much talent that you have there. So very much looking forward to further explore opportunities to collaborate. And besides this kind of like multiple things that I do, I'm also an academic. I just finished my doctorate on the topic of interactive storytelling with quantum computing, and I promise you I won't bother you with that at all, neither other academic stuff. But I've been teaching courses of game design, gamification, digital art and interactive experiences throughout my, let's say, academic career, both at University of Turku and Ashes University in Ghana. So I have been building different kind of educational programs for different universities throughout past 15 plus years. And so as a summary, yes, I'm a workaholic, very big nerd and a mother. My 17-year-old daughter is also very much into arts, but of course, this is something that I would prefer, to be honest, to have a coder in the house, but art will do. So today's topic is, again, how to manage everything, because there's so many things to do, especially when you are considering going to foreign markets. And what does that entail? But before we go into all of that, I really want to touch upon crucial things, which are, of course, why games? Why games as a product? Why games as a service? And why us as a team who are building whatever product we are building together? And then to address, of course, whole foreign market approach and how do you build communities across borders and so forth, I'm still big believer that IP and the strategizing your IP development or intellectual property for short, so meaning that every product is its own IP and you can expand it in various media and so forth. So we will also touch upon that, because this is one of the really big values that you as a team are creating. It's not just one product. Game can be initiating product, and it can be something that you funnel also all your community and all the other things you want to do with the expansion of your business. But there is that opportunity to expand from one product, which is initially a game, usually in our case of indies. So to start off straight away, why games? Like, why do people play games? Why you play games? Why I play games? So there are many answers to this, and it's very subjective, because one of the first things that usually I get answers to when I'm, let's say, with my students, or I'm just asking at the conferences and so forth, I would be asked, the first thing that comes is, it's fun. Now, fun is very subjective. what's fun for me might not be for you, or there could be something that it's very much fun for all of us. So the definition of fun, or trying to make something fun, it is really, really hard. Because again, it has to tap into individuals' own interests, whatever sparks joy and so on. And it can be affected by so many moving parts, even from the environment and so on. I mean, just think about, with the services of streaming like Netflix and so forth, like you are going to watch different kind of content depending on the current mood or the current, let's say, just how tired you are, for example. Like you don't want to necessarily, if you're too tired, watch something super heavy. You might want to watch something that would be just simple and entertaining enough. So same thing goes with games. We can play, and our players, even if we have hardcore players of specific genre, they do tend to also overlap with the different kind of other games, and also generally different kind of interests, which when we design games, what we usually do when we are profiling basically a player, it's not just about, okay, what games would this player play, besides the genre that we would be, let's say, focusing on. It is also, what are their hobbies? For example, what kind of fashion or clothes they are usually like. Do they have specific style? What kind of food they enjoy? What kind of music would they be listening? So basically, what kind of persona this player would be. Because the thing is, no matter of what we go with the games, like the sort of from the fun aspect to learning aspect to basically exploring different kind of narratives and having this whole fantasy in a way that it's not part of this world. Because when you are interacting with interactive media such as games, you are switching from this reality, whatever that reality may be, into now the digital world where you are creating memories. And this is one of the really big impacts of games, because you are actively doing whatever it is that you do in games, and they do create very personal memories. Because when I ask someone, let's say Mario here, so how did your Mario gameplay go? Most likely you're not going to say, my Mario was jumping around and, slaying turtles to save the princess. You're going to say, I did this and that. I defeated blah blah blah, I saved the princess, I did this and that. So it's very much again what one does. And as a game developers, this is something that it has a really big responsibility from our part, that when we are creating these memories, we have to keep in mind that still everything happens inside the player. And our job as designers and developers is to provide them with the building blocks. And I just realized that my camera, unfortunately, is covering some of the text in these slides, but don't worry, I will be talking all about it, and also generally also can share later the slides. So before we start now into the core topic of the day, I just want to say that I might be touching upon some topics that might trigger different kind of emotions. So it might be a roller coaster, but I think that's also really important when thinking how to address different audiences and different people from different backgrounds, different interests, and so forth. So first things first, making games is a lot of work. We know it. Even as a single, especially as a solo developer, like that is just so much. and again, if a whole team is a lot, not mentioning for smaller team or even a solo developer. So what does this mean? That means that, of course, when you are dealing as an indie with a smaller amount of resources, and by that I mean also talent, meaning people who have maybe a smaller team of several people, or you might have, and also the time itself is a resource as itself. So we are not talking even about financial kind of aspect of it. We are literally talking about what skill set you have, what time you have to develop whatever product now you have been developing. So because there is a lot. And the thing is, it can always be better. It can always be built upon further. But it's really important from the start to have this sort of like what is a must, and that becomes a priority. upon which everything else basically would be nice to have and can build forward to something to build upon, especially as you are developing your IP forward. So picking battles is extremely important skill to develop as an indie, because there will be surprises that come up that like simply will be a challenge on your way to proceed with the project. And literally life happens. So this is not about now particularly something in the development. It can be literally from private life that can affect. So having all that in mind, especially as a team, it is really important to understand that the team really has to work as one. And that means that the transparency and the trust between individuals in the team is crucial. And what that also means is that we need to be very transparent towards each other, even that culturally might be weird to do it, because different cultures will be referring to, let's say, failure or not being able to do something differently. So I'm, for example, originally from Serbia. So as a Balkan kind of like country and in the Balkans, South Europe, that means that, for example, it's very hard for us to say, oh, I can't do this. It would very rarely happen that someone would say, no, I can't do that. Like I'm not equipped, or I don't. It will always be, yes, I can handle, or of course, yes, I can do this, even if they have no clue how to do it, because it's shame to say that you can't do something, that you don't know how to do something. So basically, in Finland is different. In Finland, they would say, I'm not sure, can I do this, even though they are basically experts in it, because it's kind of like, again, culturally, it's completely different way of approaching the sort of fear of failure. So as an indie, what in my career also, and with leading my team, what has been really, really helpful is the whole building inclusive and trusted environment where all of our strengths and weaknesses kind of like come together in a way that we can support each other when one cannot. So, for example, I personally really dislike marketing. I don't like it. I don't like anything about it. So this is something that I don't feel comfortable with. But of course, I'm doing it, but I'm not doing it alone. And same thing goes that with others. If someone is not comfortable to do something and they don't want to do it, they shouldn't be. But if they want to still learn and be part of it, they are not alone. So this is kind of like that we need to be very transparent about these things, because we cannot put product and expectations of our players in jeopardy over personal egos or whatever else might come in this kind of situations. So it takes a village to make a game. That's basically what the teamwork is. And doesn't matter, again, how big that village is, meaning your team, but please keep that in mind, that you really have to be transparent with each other and to listen to each other. Because how are you going to listen to your players if you're not even able to listen to yourself and your team? So this is the first thing that you really have to really work forward, especially when we're talking about listening to someone who might not be part of your initial circles, community, culturally, however, kind of like, so we're talking about global market and expansion. So therefore, listening is really crucial there. And what I just said about the kind of diversity in the teamwork when it comes to skills, but also individual diverse personas and everything else that we have. So this image here is very commonly used for kind of like by HR and so on, and kind of like how would one basically solve this, and how would one work. But this is the reality, especially in game development. We have so many different skills and backgrounds of our people who are in the team, that if they come again with this sort of strengths and weaknesses together, and then together they work upon the task. If you ask me, for example, I think that all of these animals can end up on the top of the tree if they work again together, and that's very much doable. So these are the things that why I was saying that the trust and transparency is the key, because how we can approach the expansion, because when we create a product, a game, we want other people to enjoy it. We are not making it necessarily for ourselves. I mean, at least we shouldn't. If we are building the business, then definitely you are not making game for yourself. You're making game for others. And we want to scale that, which means that, again, it is very hard to understand where and what and how to address your product and to bring that value to someone out there, especially to make sure that it's communicated properly. So I like to use this metaphor of skill tree, both for personal growth even, but also as your business and even as your product growth. And why is that? As a game designer, and I'm sure we have quite many game designers in the house here listening to this, this is our job right here. So basically, if we are allowing and designing the journey of our player to actually be able to pick different skills, do different stuff, and the way how they can achieve whatever they put a front of them to as a goal, why wouldn't we use these practices in our own day-to-day life? So you can also create your own personal, even career or whatever else kind of skill tree, but also for your business, for your product, and anything else. Like, this is scalable and reusable in so many ways. But now, why does skill tree help in this kind of for a mindset? Because when you have skill tree, you are also very much improving your self-awareness. And it cannot just be yourself, like awareness from your product perspective, awareness from your team's perspective, like what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses. And also one really important thing is that it keeps you focused. So let me jump back. So basically, when you are having very specific things you would like to get better at, meaning your product should go reaching some different kind of audiences out there, regions and so forth, and generally building community, because again, it's about how do you communicate to different people, keeping that focus, keeping that narrative exactly relevant to that particular audience. And then learning correctly, because this is something that we want to see, that the data, first of all, data is something that will really help you out all the way. So learning correctly in a way that, jumping back, that when you want to acquire certain type of skill, you would then be knowing exactly what you should be focusing next, and not basically losing your focus because something is at the moment looking attractive or looking interesting and so on, so that you can still keep up with your actual growth. And you can make skill trees out of it. I mean, you can literally do it on a whiteboard. That's not a problem. The thing is that you can, whatever you decide to do, here are some links that how to design a skill tree, and also you can use Milanote or Miro, which are very commonly used in game design nowadays anyway. So you can again use whatever tools you already use. It doesn't matter what you use, as long as you kind of structure your growth in a way that it could really help you with the big picture. Because launching a game, it's just the start of your work. So when you think about it, you spend years on creating a game and you press the button to launch it. That's when actual work starts. And it's insane when you think of it. So it's especially in the current market and the way how it goes. So that's why it's important to have that big picture and to understand what and where, and then try different things, but still under that focus. So that's why communication and relevance is so important. And yes, it can make you dizzy. It can make you, especially when you kind of have different kind of even opposing feedback, opposing comments. So you really need to also, through that listening training, you also need to learn how to have selective hearing of what to take and what to just like, no, because you know your product best, you know your game best. So, and also what you can do as a team. You can't do everything and you shouldn't be doing everything. So again, picking those battles and having this selective hearing is exactly where this will be making you more relevant to whatever it is that you are communicating to the audience, again, internationally. Because it's different if I'm, let's say, pitching our game to our Finnish players or Nordic players or the rest of Europe, or let's say Latin America players. So, and not even mentioning the languages and so on, that could be like this sort of like localization and everything else. But even with localization, if your message is not relevant, it's not going to work. So that's why learning to really listen is a really important lifelong skill, which again will change because as humanity is shifting as well, like the way how we interact with each other also evolves. So you just need to keep up with those trends as well. Now, biggest question really is what to focus and when, because once again, so much to do, so little time and resources. So basically, how do you even do this? Okay, so here are some kind of like, I will give you 4 steps to consider. Again, consider. All of this is just to take as a consideration and inspiration, because I don't know what your games particularly are targeted for whom and when, what is your roadmaps and so forth, because there are so many different teams here. But this should be something pretty applicable on a day-to-day basis. So one thing is to try to challenge yourself as a team, even individually. And I mean that in a very, very like this sort of like safe, inclusive environment that I'm speaking about. So no need to now go completely, because you know your boundaries, or if you don't, you should set your boundaries. Like as important it is to say yes to things, it's equally important to say no to things. So having this, again, whatever is still comfortable, but challenging in this kind of creative way that you are also comfortable, or breaching that comfort zone just enough to improve your skills forward. So, because when we are doing stuff out of our comfort zone and learning new skills and trying different things, you will also recognize your limitations, again, as an individual or as a team. And this is also where you can use them actually with a change of mindset to actually work for you. So, but that's a completely different talk. So I won't go deeper into that. But one thing that you can definitely do as a team, and again, even individually, is to have these mini postmortems. And that can be literally based on a task done or milestone or whatever you do as a team. So usually it's about evaluating mistakes. That's usually what postmortems focus on, like what didn't go well. I would like to encourage you to also focus on what did go well, because whatever was working well could become now the part of the processes. There's something that you learn, like this is working for us, let's do it. Because you as a team should be adjusting your processes that work for you, not just following some processes for the sake of processes. Like the point is to create some new ways that really work for you. Because at the end of the day, what we are making are the games for others. And really, this is the question that comes all the time for us game designers from like on daily basis. Why should player care? Why would someone sit down and play any game, not even your game, any game, instead of watching Netflix, doom scrolling on TikTok, or whatever people do nowadays? So it's not that you are not competing. Your game is not competing with other games even. It's competing with just attention to actually someone to sit and play your game. And that's how you will be, by challenging yourself and challenging kind of like what can you do, and trying different stuff. Because again, we usually work, we as kind of people, we don't individually just belong to one bubble. There are many bubbles that we actually belong to or being active in. So people can come across your game or your IP just by being part, if they come up across it through different sources, which can be, again, something that is not necessarily in your core bubble. So it's connecting and bridging these different sources of information, which again is why it is important to have the whole presence in different type of communicating methods and means. Because community is really one of the biggest values that game developers can have, because community usually is not just about one game. They can love the game that you make, but they also want to see what you're going to be working on next. So, and also people love to engage directly with the developers. And so basically building community, we know the value of it. We know that it's a huge, huge value. But also, if you don't give them value, so as they are valuable to you, you need to bring the value to them. And that can come through that message that they, again, it can be literally about your core values, or it can be about the game per se. It can be about anything but information you are sharing with them have to resonate to once again be, why should they care about this? So this is where we are trying to connect these bubbles wherever people are belonging, across, again, borders, across cultures, across basically, because we as game developers are providing experiences and people connect through these experiences. So this is why we really need to also, as indies, collaborate much more closer than other, let's say, kind of like AA or AAA studios. Because also, let's say if I'm making RPG game, then usually the players who love RPGs will want to hear about some other games. So if I, as a creator of RPG, to my, let's say, community, or just generally the people who know that I'm a big fan of those games, then if I say, hey, I highly recommend to check out this game from this and that studio, then there you go. There will be like this, because people trust other people when it comes to, especially if they follow their, if they value their opinion. So this is where word of mouth is very important, and where how again trusted community is being built. But it takes time. Building your own community takes time, and this is where also, especially for social media is absolutely. As said, like, I'm not a big fan of marketing as such, just because of the social media, how algorithms and everything else basically doesn't work, or whatever it works, it's so weird, it shifts so fast, and there is so much, so many weird things happening, especially data-wise, that what I'm trying to encourage you is to try to do whatever, again, fits good with you as a team, what you are comfortable with. And one thing you could do is, again, set a smaller type of goals and tasks for yourself, because there's so many channels, so many different ways to do stuff, and you don't have to be everywhere. So usually for indies, what's happening and what is working very well for the in the recent years is that from all the channels, pick two. You can, for example, focus on the static image and GIFs, and then you can have videos, clips, kind of like whatever, kind of more like moving media. So that means that if you are, for example, in our case, we are now focusing fully on Blue Sky and YouTube Shorts, which means that Blue Sky, static, of course you can also post their videos, but the idea is that if you focus on a type of content, because then you can reuse that content in other days to post it on, let's say, Instagram, whatever else you're using, again, whatever you want, Facebook, I don't know, like whatever it is. And then and also videos from YouTube to TikTok, and again, other streaming places. So the reason why is that you want to also see what kind of thing works for your game, for the reflecting with the audience, what kind of content works, and you have to try it. It doesn't matter what others are doing. It might not work for you. It just like, that's the thing. There is no one to fit this all, even within the specific genre. So you have to try. And why it's important to set this kind of smaller goals is that you can actually do them. It's attainable. It's possible. And you can also please try to have like all this data connect that you can actually see what works. So this is not about now gaining followers and focusing on that. It's more like how many, let's say if you have 100 people, how many people actually engage in your content? If you have all 100 people engaging, that's a huge success. Instead of having 1 million followers and you still have, 100 likes. So that's kind of what I'm like. It's about the value. It's about the data. That it's not just about the full. I'm talking about actual engagement. What you want to see, because this is something that you can track. This is something that you can improve upon. Especially when it's measurable, you can work on it. You can see what works, what doesn't work, and then again shift and see how it might need to be adjusted in the weeks, months, even years to come. And please don't compare yourself to others. I know it's always like, oh, but we did this didn't work for us and blah, blah. Yeah, of course, because again, you have your product, you have your voice. So you need to find the spot in the market that is yours. And again, for that takes time. But do take other people's work as inspiration. Like you can see what might work. And because again, you know your product best. So try to take it as an inspiration, not as comparison. Because again, there's no really, it's like something even that might work for this match 3 game might not work for that match 3 game. So it's really important to do it for yourself. And then of course you can always have help, and remember that you're not alone. Again, you can always work with other indies, you can work with mentors, you can work with different, like just ask for help around, especially in game communities. We have so many people who want to help each other, and it's just like natural for us. So utilize all the channels you can. And I will not read through this, but mostly kind of just like now go into different opportunities, of course, as a business growth. Because once again, when you know how you want to approach for your product scalability forward, it might be, especially with the IP development, that you want to do maybe transmedia or cross media, that you want to, besides the game, also have maybe comics, board games, some other kind of media that you want to expand your world building towards, because these are these bubbles also where you can expand the awareness of your product through other products. But that's an IP development. That's again another type of talk. But it is something that you should really be considering as a team, because again, what can you do, what you want to do, and knowing your product best, you will know also, and listening to your users, you will see what makes sense. Of course, you can, if you're working with a publisher, if you're working with a marketing agency instead, so maybe you're self-publishing by having marketing support from the agency, or again, any other partnerships that you might be having, this is something that is a big part of the plans, the strategy of how to go into different audiences or reflect to them in a better way. And also, this could be also what technologies you use, because again, if you are using specific set of tools, from game engine to whatever other tools, their tools also have their communities, they cross promote as well. For example, Godot, they will be like, oh, this is the latest games made in Godot, for example, they have these highlights. Or it can be part that you are of a specific kind of, again, Unreal Engine has its own things, Unity has its own things. So, and then different tools we use for our narrative driven games, Ink Studio, which is open source narrative tool, narrative design tool, and script writing. So basically that is one thing as well that you can, like, so based on the tools, it can be also where you can reach different audiences. But at the end of the day, it's always about value proposition. And that doesn't matter, do you go with the kind of selling your services to other companies and teams, or are you selling your product to directly, meaning game directly to the players. I already spoke a bit about marketing channels, so I highly recommend to crop it to the 2 that you focus on, because for 2 you can make content and then you can spread it around and cross post elsewhere, but focus on 2 because that is actually manageable. And you will also then see, when you are doing ads and different kind of marketing campaigns and so on, what would make then sense to put money into, instead of just putting money and trying to see what sticks on the wall. It's like you have to better to see what works first organically, and then boost it with ads when you know what actually works. And milestones are always good to have in everything you do, or trying to have deadlines, in a sense that even if you have to move the deadline, still you have done most likely more than otherwise without that deadline you would. So set yourself goals, set yourself deadlines and milestones, so that you can actually, again, possibly break them, but at least they are there to guide you, again, that in the right way to get. And also to measure, because that's the part of measuring. Why didn't we reach this milestone, for example? So where was the bottleneck? Where was the challenge? And so you can learn that next time it wouldn't happen. And of course, funding is one of the big issues, especially currently in the industry for multiple years, because money is not moving, basically, in the investments and everything else, and just generally, even that the players are there and game industry has never been bigger, but still we have issue with funding as overall, doesn't matter of which part of the world you're looking at. So what I would highly recommend is to consider expanding your revenue streams, especially through IP development, that you can actually expand, not just to have all into one product, but please put eggs in as many baskets, because you don't know what would actually be the one that might work on the market at that time. Because, lots of developers say, oh, we were lucky. Luck also, you need to kind of like, if you kind of go that you want to get lucky, well, put yourself in situations to luck be easier to scratch upon you kind of thing. So if you are present in a bit broader way, there is higher chance to then be picked as a product, meaning as a developer as well. So please consider building IP from day zero as a strategically side of it, because it works both for B2B and B2C. So you can expand your revenue growth and different markets expand through simply focusing on the IB strategy. But again, that is another talk of its own, which I'm happy to give, but just like today, I'm just overall trying to give you some tips. And if you think now things are hard, unfortunately, things are not getting any easier, even 10 years from now, 15 years, 20 years from now. There will be just different kind of challenges. And sure, you can kind of like try to dodge the known challenges and problems and so on, but at the end, you're always going to get smacked in the head. That's the life of a game developer. So that's why, again, you're not alone. Ask around, get mentorship, mentor others. You will learn so much by mentoring. And also, even that you think you solved one, there will be other problems coming. So these are the things that, again, these are just reality of our work and why we need to constantly like iterate, and that it's not working, even that something worked 6 months ago might not be working now. So therefore, we need to see and listen. And that's why listening is so important, as this very dizzy face of mine says. But before we go into the kind of like final stages, I just want to give you an example of our latest game called Willow Guard that we launched last year, April. And then this year we had DLC launch in April as well. So kind of like a year since official launch. And we have been, ever since the initial launch, we have been doing different kind of transmedia projects. And I just want to show you as an inspiration what you can do on your own. Again, this is all done by our team and in collaboration with some partners on the way. But the point is that you can do it. It's your IP. Nobody can stop you. So one thing is that we knew that with our type of game that it is, and also because it's action-adventure RPG, a lot of narrative, very narrative heavy. So therefore, and in the game you play as a badger witcher. That's basically a game. It's kind of Witcher made baby with Mouse Guard as two IPs. So that might be the easiest to explain. So comics and graphic novels were something that we really knew from the start. So we did this one together with Feeling Good Films. There's another one now coming up done internally with our own team. And we're expanding more with a series of graphic novels. Then we also did for kind of like adult coloring book, meaning that because it has monsters, and so even that this is all cute, but still not necessarily for children. So that's why like there is nothing like monsters, kind of like illustrated monsters, but these monsters that you are slaying also in the game, I mean, this is kind of cartoon violence kind of aspect, but still another thing, because we had all the material from the game, it was so easy to create this product as well, which again can find completely different audience that can then be funneled to the game. Then of course we have our own merch, and this is something that one can find of course on our website. So this is very, again, simple thing that you can do without any particular, and you can even set up even print on demand if you want, and so on. So there are many ways you can expand, of course, your presence. And when you are going to the events, it's always good to have merch on yourself, because you are basically representative of that IP as well, because you created it and you should be proud of it. Then we also have some additional things, like especially kind of more accessories and even some home kind of decor coming up and so forth. So again, whatever it is that might work for you. We also have done a lot of, even that the game is 2D, we did the 3D characters because we knew that we are going to have a board game actually coming later. So we also have just simply 3D files that one can download as a digital product and print them themselves. So there is a lot of stuff one can do, once again, just as you go and as you listen to your audience, what they would like to do. Then we did these weekly comic strips, like more, again, under the world of and the storytelling, but expanding more into this sort of very kind of like this sort of more like a funny sketches, which is, again, expanding to the world building and all that through its own now media. And here it is, the final kind of like the final product that we have been now expanding towards. So we just announced the Hollow Root board game, which is based on the world, but nothing to do with the actual digital game. So it's its own game, but the world expands. And it's a game for 4, so you can play 1 to 4 people as one of these willow guards here. This is actually their main teacher. He's really badass. But yeah, so Quieres, of course, is there, Zarar, and so forth. So basically, these are the things that we have developed even further, and there is more to come under the world of Willow Guard. We are now also negotiating possibly animated TV series being developed. Not with Netflix or anything like that. We want to actually work with indies. So we are now exploring these opportunities as well. And as a takeaway, please, whatever you do, try try things around and adopt whatever works for you. And what that means between basically picking your battles, because you can't do all of this at once. So when you do and what you do. And if you think about skill tree, this could be one way to use. Also in this process, please focus on listening. And I really mean listening, to try to understand from that other perspective of what really something means if someone is asking. And this also goes to yourself as well. Like, try really to listen to also yourself, because you know the best, again, of what it is that, even if what are your boundaries, if nothing else. Don't reinvent the wheel. Please use all the resources that are out there. It has never been technically easier to do stuff, especially as a game developer, with the amount of free tools and everything else we have. But really try to use them as well, responsibly. And don't think perfection. There is none. Basically, good enough is really sometimes all you need, especially because players don't know what your vision is. They know what they see. And sometimes that is literally, if it's good enough, if it works, that's all that takes. It would be surprising to see how many developers actually don't show their products in good time or try to expand because they were waiting too long and the momentum passed. So don't do that. Put it out there and build it up together also with the players forward, because that's also how you strengthen the community. And partner with those who know better. You don't have to know everything. Ask around. Again, get a mentor. Partner with a company that would be better to do whatever you need them to do. So this is the beauty again of our industry, which is built on diverse talent and diverse type of collaborations. So you're not alone. And therefore, please do reach out. Also, same if you have any questions for me or you want to get in touch, by all means, feel free to do so. I hope this was at least inspirational enough when it comes to how to go to different markets, because it really depends how you want to communicate your game and yourself as a team behind it and so on to these different regions. And how this kind of different interest could be something that you can bridge, as I call them bubbles, that you can actually bridge them to be there present as well, with, again, relevant and valuable experiences as your games should be providing. And with that said, thank you once again for having me, and very much looking forward to hear any comments and feedback. Big greetings from, for once, sunny Finland. So see you guys later. Bye.